The courtroom was packed so tightly that every breath felt like it carried the weight of history. Families sat shoulder to shoulder in the gallery, their hands trembling, their eyes wide and unblinking, waiting for the words that would finally seal the fate of the man in chains. Reporters leaned over wooden barriers, their microphones trembling, their cameras flashing with rapid bursts of light. Even the marble pillars seemed to vibrate under the pressure of silence. And in the center of it all, Diddy Combs sat shackled in his orange jumpsuit, chains clinking with every small twitch, his face a storm of rage and defiance. The judge lifted the gavel slowly, his eyes fixed on Diddy like steel. The entire chamber leaned forward, hearts pounding in unison, as though time itself had frozen to witness what was about to happen. With a crack that split the air, the gavel slammed down onto the bench. The sound reverberated like thunder, bouncing off the walls and shaking the very ground beneath their feet. The words that followed were colder than stone, sharper than glass. Combs, this court confirms your sentence. You will spend the rest of your life behind bars. Your empire is destroyed. The moment those words left the judge's lips, the chamber erupted. Families screamed, some collapsing to their knees in tears, others shouting, "Justice!" through voices cracked from years of waiting. Reporters scrambled, their voices tumbling over each other. Life sentence confirmed. Diddy's empire shattered forever. The sound of camera shutters filled the air, capturing the exact second when power dissolved into nothing. Diddy's chest heaved violently as he slammed his fists into the table, the chains rattling like 1,000 broken promises. "No," he roared, his voice raw and hoarse. "You can't erase me. You can't bury me. I am the culture. I am forever." His screams ricocheted across the chamber. But instead of awe, they sounded hollow, like the final cries of a fallen king trying to cling to a throne that no longer existed. Guards pinned him down, their grips iron strong as he struggled to rise. His eyes blazed. But behind the fury, there was something else: fear. Before we dive deeper into this unforgettable video, make sure to like the video, subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon. That way, you'll never miss any new coming videos like this. Now, let's get back to it. The families shouted back through their tears, their voices carrying the truth of what had been stolen from them. "You ruin lives," one man cried out, his fist clenched. "This is your end," screamed another, her face streaked with tears. Their voices filled the courtroom, slamming into Diddy's rage until it was nothing but noise swallowed by the tidal wave of justice. The judge raised the gavel once more, slamming it down hard. "Order! Order in this court!" he thundered. His glare cut through the chaos, locking on to Diddy with a stare that froze the air. "Your arrogance built your empire, but today it has destroyed it. The law does not bend for your name, your wealth, or your pride. From this moment forward, your empire is nothing but ruins, and your life belongs to the prison walls." Gasps rippled across the room, and in that single instant, the courtroom knew the empire had truly fallen. Families sobbed harder, some clapping through tears, others bowing their heads in prayer. Reporters bolted out of the chamber, their voices cracking as they carried the breaking story to the world outside. And in the center of the storm, Diddy sat trembling in his chains, his once thundering voice reduced to a whisper, drowned out by the sound of his empire crumbling forever. The echoes of the gavel still thundered through the courtroom, but what followed was louder than any strike of wood on stone. The families of victims erupted, their cries shaking the chamber like an earthquake. Some clapped through streaming tears. Others collapsed into their seats, clutching one another in pure relief. The sound of justice rang from trembling voices. A word repeated again and again until it felt like the very walls were chanting with them. Reporters scrambled frantically, shouting into microphones as their cameras flashed. Confirmed. Diddy sentenced to life. Empire destroyed. The words raced across phones, televisions, and headlines like wildfire. At the center of it all, Diddy roared back against the judgment that had sealed his fate. His chains rattled furiously as he slammed his shackled fists into the defense table. The echo of iron clashing on wood rang like a death knell. No, you don't get to erase me. His face twisted in fury, his eyes burning as he screamed. I built everything. I am the Empire. You'll remember me forever. His voice carried across the chamber, but it no longer struck fear. It sounded desperate, broken, a man clinging to power that had slipped like sand through his fingers. Guards pressed harder into his shoulders, their arms locking around him as he thrashed wildly, sweat flying from his face. The gallery answered him with a storm of voices sharper than knives. You destroyed lives. You silenced us. This is your justice? The sound of truth cut through his rage, leaving him to scream into a tidal wave that swallowed every word. Tears streamed down the faces of those who had waited years for this moment. Their relief so heavy it shook the benches beneath them. The more he shouted, the smaller he seemed against the strength of voices united in pain and triumph. The judge's gavel cracked again, silencing the storm for a fleeting second. Order! His voice bellowed like thunder rolling over mountains. His glare locked onto Diddy, his words slicing the air like steel. You will not shout your way out of this. You will not intimidate your way past the truth. You will spend your life behind bars, and your empire has been destroyed by your own hand. The law does not bend, Mr. Combs, and it will not bend for you. The words hung heavy, the sound of finality pressing against everyone's chest. Reporters scribbled feverishly, their whispers racing through the room. This is the end. The empire is gone. The camera zoomed in on Diddy's face, capturing the sweat dripping from his brow, the veins bulging from his neck as he tried one last time to shout above the noise. His voice cracked, splintering into a hoarse rasp. You'll regret this. All of you. Every one of you will regret this day. But his words landed like broken glass, shattering on the stone floor, without power, without weight. The family shouted louder, drowning him out entirely. Their voices rose in unity, a wave of raw emotion crashing over his crumbling defiance. The courtroom trembled with the sound, not of a man's power, but of his fall. And with every clatter of his chains, with every desperate scream that failed to shake the walls, it was clear to all who were present. The sentence had not just taken his freedom, it had destroyed his empire forever. The storm inside the courtroom only grew heavier every second, pushing Sean Diddy Combs deeper into the collapse of his own making. The echoes of the gavel still rang like a curse, and the words, "Life behind bars," hung over the chamber like a dark cloud refusing to clear. Families sat trembling, some sobbing uncontrollably into their hands, others shouting through their tears, "Justice! Finally! Justice!" The air was thick with the weight of years of pain breaking loose all at once. Reporters' voices collided in the chaos, microphones shoved forward, cameras clicking so fast it looked like lightning flashing in every corner. And at the center, Diddy shook in his chains, drenched in sweat, his face crimson with fury. He slammed his shackled fists against the table so hard the wood groaned under the impact, the sound of clattering iron echoing like a funeral bell. "You think this breaks me?" he shouted, his voice but laced with venom. "You think locking me in a cage erases my name? I am still here. I will always be here." His words carried across the chamber, but the tone betrayed him, less like a king and more like a man watching his throne crumble into dust. Guards gripped him tighter, their arms forcing him back down as his body jolted with rage, chains rattling like thunder. The gallery roared back in one voice, their cries cutting into his like knives. "You destroyed lives! Your empire is finished! This is justice!" Their words weren't just loud, they were final. The voices of people whose pain had finally been recognized. Each shout drowned his defiance further, until his voice seemed like nothing but background noise, swallowed by the tidal wave of truth. The judge's gavel slammed down again, the sharp crack splitting the air. "Order!" His voice boomed like a cannon, commanding silence. His eyes burned as he leaned forward, locking on Diddy with the authority of the law itself. "Your arrogance is what brought you here. Your pride is what destroyed your empire. You will not shout over this court, and you will not rewrite the truth. Your life belongs to the prison walls now, and your empire is nothing more than ashes." The words didn't just echo, they cut, slicing the last fragments of illusion left around the man in chains. Reporters gasped, their whispers racing to their recorders. "Judge declares empire destroyed. Final confirmation." Headlines were already being typed, blasting across the globe. Diddy's legacy reduced to ashes, life sentence confirmed. Outside, giant screens replayed the moment, and crowds gasped as if they had just watched a tower fall. Fans shook their heads, some wiping tears, others frozen with disbelief, while social media exploded with a single word spreading like fire.